Hello summoners, welcome to Main Deck Masters. My name is Jacob. If you're looking for deck inspiration and ideas in Aquatic Invaders, then have no fear, I'm here to help you. I have one deck for each color to give you inspiration. Now these are all work in progress builds. They are there to give you a good idea of how to start building the deck, and then you can work from there on everything that you may want to add to it for your own personal preferences. So we're going to start with red. Before we do though, make sure to like and subscribe. Every little bit helps out. So let's go into red. It's going to be Star Dragonoid. So with this build, you are aiming to control your opponent quite a bit with a lot of destruction effects. Let's go through it. We do have the 4 Rain Needle. It's Rain Needle. It's 1 cost. It's free. Then we're going to go into 3 Camellia Whip. This spirit can't block, but if it's exhausted, your opponent can't deal damage to you with spirits with fewer BP than the spirit. So if they're not swinging with a 5k or more, depending on what you do with the Camellia Whip, they can't even deal damage to you. So this is a good early aggressive play to get onto the field, swing with it, and then your opponent can't really do anything back to you unless they play a big spirit. After that, we're going to have Blaze Dragonoid Magwo. This spirit is going to refresh cores from your trash and put it onto any of your spirits, so you still have all of those cores to work with during flash timing if you need to flash a Burning Forest or an Ice Shield or anything like that, or even to start using with your Awaken effects with spirits that we'll see later. Then we have Battle Axe Apollo Dinos. This spirit's a lot better than I originally thought it would be. It's got Flash Awaken, and then it also destroys every spirit your opponent controls, it does not select, with BP equal to this spirit's BP, starting at level 2. So starting at 5k, you can destroy everything that they have, and you can tweak and manage this spirit's BP with stuff like Volcanic Canyon with a core on it, Scorched Battlefield, Ruby Radiance, anything that buffs the BP of your spirit, and you can get this spirit pretty high in its BP to destroy incredibly powerful spirits. And if they have a lot of spirits at the same BP around that 5+k threshold, you can destroy them all at once. This spirit makes, at the very least, it makes your opponent think about what they're doing. They may power down some of their spirits and power up some of their other spirits, so you can't kill multiple things at once. And then you can go in and pop spirits with some of your other effects. So this card is pretty dang good. Then we have 4 of Meteor Emperor Seagworm. It's a very good card. It has Awaken as well. It draws a card when you have a Soul Core on it, and it gains Confront if you have another Seagworm card in the drop. We all know this card. We all love this card. Its art's amazing. Then we're playing 2 Nebula Dragon Andromeda just to pop opponent's spirits or their nexuses and get those out of the way so they're not doing any pesky combos. We're the only one doing combos. After that, we're running 3 Ancient Guardian Trident Dragon. This card, in conjunction with the Ruby Sanctuary, is really good at level 2. You place 2 cores from your trash that aren't a soul core onto the spirit for each Ruby Sanctuary you control. So if you have multiple Ruby Sanctuaries, you get a bunch of spirits back, and then in the flash step, you can awaken onto your other spirits, so they're all more powerful. Another way to recur your cores in order to not have any cores in your trash, so you can continue to do all of your effects. And at level 3, you can Seagworm Nova a combined total of 6,000 or fewer BP and control the board. After that, we're running 2 of your boy Dragno King. When he's summoned, pop something with 6,000 or fewer BP, and then during your attack step, if your opponent wants to block with their spirit from one of your spirits with the Soul Core on it, you can kill another spirit with 6,000 or fewer BP, and he goes up to 15,000 when he attacks at a bare minimum at level 3. He's a very good card, so we're running 2 of them. And then finally, to round out the spirits, we're running 2 Supernova Dragon Seagworm Nova. He ascends off of your Andromeda or your Meteor Seagworm. He can even ascend off of your Dragno King or your Trident Dragon. It doesn't matter as long as it's 6 or more. He does have Awaken himself. You can get rid of the Soul Core to heal if you really need to. That's not the main point of running Seagworm Nova, but you can do that if you're in a bind and you need to. And then he Novas 10k or fewer BP, so we are controlling the board very hefty. Afterwards, we're running 4 Ruby Sanctuary. It is reduction, it's really good, and it also draws you a card when the effect of one of your spirits that costs 5 or more destroys an opponent's spirit. And we have a lot of effects that destroy opponent's spirits during the attack step. So this will not work with Dragno King's on summon, but it will work with his other effect, and it works with everything else. Then we're running 3 Scorched Battlefield, mainly for its BP increase, and of course it is a symbol on the board, and you can also put 2 cores on it to draw a card when you reduce your opponent's life if you need more draw. After that, we're running 3 Volcanic Canyon. We know Volcanic Canyon, it is there for our BP increments, especially for our Apollo Dinos, but also that extra draw and filter at the start of your step is really useful for us. This is 10 Nexus, but I found that running 10 Nexus in this deck is perfectly fine. If you want to, you can cut down on like the Scorched Battlefield or something like that, but this is how we are showcasing the deck. Then we're running 3 Ruby Radiance. You can bump this up to 4 if you want to. Again, it will draw you a card and it increases the BP of your spirit. So this is another way to increase the power of your Apollo Dinos. Then 4 Absolute Ice Shield. We don't need to talk about that. Everybody knows what it does. 4 Star Blessed Draw, because it's Star Blessed Draw and you're running red. We're running 3 Burning Force. You can bump it to 4 if you want to, cutting your Scorched Battlefield. But we're running 3 because we also have the 2 Andromeda. We all know what Burning Force does. And then in the side, we are running an additional Camellia Whip. We are running 2 Imperial Black Dragon Dark Worm. It does have Confront, and he bumps the Star Dragon and Dragonoid spirits by 3000 BP and gives them Confront. So this can bump up your Apollo Dinos even more to pop a really powerful creature on your opponent's side of the field. And it just makes it to where all of your stuff is very powerful and everything has Confront, so you can wipe your opponent's board that way as well. And then finally, we do have another Andromeda if we want to put another Andromeda in. 2 Suppression to help if we run into a match where we do feel like we need suppression. We have 2 Thorn Prison and 2 Dream Bomb just for the defensive side of things, because sometimes you need to get a little defensive. That's going to be it for red, so let's move on to the next color. Our next deck is going to be Serpent Meduke. I like to call this Serpent Meduke because it does have a lot of serpents in it. We are going to start with 4 Shaznake. When it's destroyed, if you control another serpent, draw a card, and it has Curse, and it has that 2k threshold for when you do get your Meduke out. It's a pretty good card. Costume Artist, we are running at 3. It kills something to draw a card, and it has Curse. Very good card. Then we're running 3 Aglavale. We know what Aglavale does. He draws a card and has Curse. We're running 3 Dragonaga Assassin. It is a serpent. It has Curse at level 2 and 3. If it has a Soul Core on it, when it attacks, it draws a card. So we're drawing a lot of cards. Then, of course, we're running 4 Worker Ant-Man to help with that ramp because purple uses cores a lot and it doesn't have the best reduction. So we're running 4 Worker Ant-Man. It's your best turn 1 play when you're going second. Pay 3 for it. Put 2 cores on it with the Soul Core, swing and ramp a core. He's very good, and then you get rid of him later once you get a few ramps in. After that, we're running 3 Lamorak. Lamorak mainly for his ability to recur cards to your hand, but also removing 1 core from your opponent's spirit when it's destroyed can be a very useful effect, so we're running 3 of it. No Beldegor in this deck because we're running very few on-summons. Then the only on-summon in this deck is Blacklance. 4 reduction, 6 cost, draw 2 cards, win summon at level 2, so you don't have to use it, and he's got Curse. Such a good card, plus he's a Serpent. Then we're running 2 Viper Dragon Son Falung. This card is so good. You can remove 3 cores from your opponent's Refresh Spirit and place it in the reserve. That very likely kills a spirit when it's destroyed by opponent. It has Curse, and it can make one of your Serpent spirits attack an opponent's exhausted spirit. So you can just swing your small Curse dudes into an exhausted spirit when you have your Meduke out, or even before then, just to get them off the board, to trigger your Blood Curse, or to just control the board. Very good card. Afterwards, we're running 2 Ancient Castle Guardian Nocturna. It has Curse. That is a running theme in this deck. When it's destroyed, you remove 1 core from 2 of your opponent's spirits. If that destroys those spirits, you ramp 1 for each spirit destroyed. Very good effect, and it's not when destroyed by its opponent, it's just when destroyed, so you can deadly this. And then when it attacks, you can exhaust an Amethyst Sanctuary to summon a card from Curse from your trash. You do have to pay the cores for it, but summon a Blacklance out for 2. That's really good. Or summon a Shaznake, anything that has Curse, which is most of the deck. Very good card. I really like this card in the deck. And then, of course, we've got our girl, Meduke. There's 2 of her. We know what Meduke does. She ends games. Afterwards, into the Nexus, we do have 3 Amethyst Sanctuary. You can look at the top card of your deck, mill it, or put it back on top when it's level 2. When anything dies on either attack step, and it also works for your Nocturna, we have 2 Impaler Forest to get your during attack step core removal if we do want that. Then also we can use Impaler Forest skill at the end of your opponent's step at level 2 to mill a card and put anything from your trash onto the top of your deck. So if you need a Meduke or anything like that, a Black Lance, any card that you want to put on top of your deck. Then 3 Rotting Swamp. It draws us cards. We have plenty of card draw, don't worry. And then its level 2 effect is really useful in this particular deck because you can swing with your Viper Dragon. If they kill it, you can remove 3 cores from a Refreshed Spirit and then discard a card and return it to your hand. Very good, and it's once per turn during either player's turn. At any point, you can do this, so it's a very good card to recur your Serpent Spirits. Then going into magics, we have 2 Deadly Balance. We know what Deadly Balance does. It's a very good removal card. For Ice Shield, of course, we're running 1 singular Core Theft to get rid of a very big, very imposing spirit that we don't want to deal with. We're running 2 Thorn Prison to exhaust our opponent's spirit, both on defense and on offense when we're swinging things into their exhausted spirits with Blood Curse. We run 2 Dream Bombs because we are in a Dream Bomb meta, and this card is very good. And then finally, we're running 2 Soul Crush. This card has shown up pretty well in testing. Removing 2 cores in Flash for 2 cores is pretty dang good. The only caveat is the spirit cannot have a soul core on it, but just leveling something down or just straight up killing it when they're not expecting you to can come in very handy. And it's actually pretty good magic from set 3. Then going into our side deck, we're running 1 Dark Bishop Baculus. We're running an extra Viper Dragon, an extra Nocturna, an extra Meduke, just to help fix ratios if we need to see them more. 2 Curse Dragon, of course. 2 Suppression, 1 extra Thorn Prison, and 1 extra Dream Bomb for, of course, that defense. This is a great defensive core here. That Serpent Meduke, in testing, it's been a lot of fun and pretty powerful, so try this deck out. I'm currently running this, and we will have a video on this deck later. Going on to white, we've got Oops, All Bounce. This is a deck that we have not tested yet, but it seems like a lot of fun. I don't know if it's super competitively viable, but you want to bounce all of your opponent's spirits to their hand. You can do it with this deck, so let's go through it. We have 3 Ice Elemental Snowbit for that reduction and that draw because the deck is lacking a bit in the draw department. Then we have 3 of the Shield Soldier Balder. It does have armor red and purple, and when it blocks, if your opponent drew a card with an effect this turn, you can bounce any of your opponent's spirits, and a lot of decks are going to be drawing cards due to an effect, so this could be a very useful effect. Then we do run 4 of the Pilgrim Synthetic Sage, since we are running 4 of the Diamond Sanctuary. It's going to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and place a Diamond Sanctuary for free, so that helps filter through your deck when it's destroyed by an opponent, and it has armor red at level 2, so red can't be destroying it by any sort of effect means. They have to kill it in battle by BP comparison, basically. So this is going to help us get our Diamond Sanctuary. Then, of course, we are running 4 Worker Ant-Man in this deck because we want to ramp so we can play more cards. So we're running the Worker Ant-Man using that Soul Core to ramp. Then we are running 4 Valkyrie Mist. Bounces anything that costs 7 or fewer. Such a good card, both in white aggro, and it's just a good card altogether. It does have weak stat line, but you're bouncing anything, and it costs 1. And we're running 3 Fortress God Odin type X. It will refresh if you control a white Nexus during your opponent's attack step, and then when it attacks or blocks, you can bounce a 3 cost or fewer. So you can bounce that pesky block golem that your blue opponent is playing. You can bounce your opponent's curse unit. You can bounce a lot of things at Worker Ant-Man. So this is definitely a decent card with a decent stat line as well. And it is a mecha, and we'll see later why it being a mecha is important. Then we're running 3 Valkyrie Hitler. It is Valkyrie Mist, but it selects anything. And then when it's destroyed by opponent at level 3, that does require 5 cores, unfortunately. You can refresh another Android Spray. That's not really what we're going for. We're going for the bounce. Afterwards, we're running 2 Turbo Rex. And we can ascend off of anything that costs 3 or more. So we can ascend it off our Pilgrim, we can ascend it off our Worker Ant-Man, or anything else. And then at the start of your opponent's attack step, make them attack with a specific spirit. And then when it attacks, you can bounce basically anything that doesn't have ascend. Good card. We're running it 2 because it does have that ascend cost, but it is a very good card. Then we're running 2 Durm Dyna. It's Durm Dyna. You're running white. Why not play Durm Dyna to end the game? So there we go. And then we are running 2 Scotty. That is part of the reason why we're running Worker Ant-Man, to try and ramp, because she does cost a lot and her ability costs a lot. but she's such a good card, and she can bounce basically your opponent's whole board if it's all refreshed at the end of their turn. And her alone can force your opponent to not even attack. So we're trying her out. I really want her to work, so we're putting her in the deck. Then afterwards, into our Nexus, we're running 4 Diamond Sanctuary. It can't be destroyed if it's got 2 cores on it, and it is a reduction. Then we're running 2 Infinity Mothership. That is part of the reason why we are running the Odin type X, because it is a Mecha Spirit. We are going to refresh all of our cores from our trash during your opponent's attack step, kind of a Newman Guard effect. And then during your core step, if you control a Mecha Spirit when this is level 2, you'll gain 2 cores. So we want to keep that Odin type X on the field so we can gain 2 cores. If you want to try and use more Mecha Spirits, instead of the Pilgrim, you can run something like Satellite Falcon or some other Mecha Spirit to be able to have on the board to use Infinity Mothership, but we decided the Pilgrim was probably more suitable for a intro deck, so we are using the Pilgrim, and with Infinity Mothership, trying to keep that Odin type X so we can ramp some more cores. Then, of course, for Absolute Ice Shield, running 4 Starblast draw because we need to draw. We are running 3 Thorn Prison to exhaust our opponent's spirits and bounce them with Scotty, hopefully, but also for defense. And they're running 3 Dream Bomb, of course, for that defense, and Dream Bomb is just such a strong card. Then afterwards, in the sideboard, we're running an additional Valkyrie Hilder. We're running an additional Turbo Rex. We're running 2 Sky Dragon Lord Platinum to use against opponents that are running maybe more low to the ground decks, like aggro decks that have 3,000 or fewer BP. It's a decent card that we can try and use to mitigate their advantage or their aggro, and then an additional Derm Dyna to close the game. 3 Suppression, of course, an additional Thorn Prison, and an additional Dream Bomb. Yes, you see this right here. We are going to be running Suppression, Thorn Prison, and Dream Bomb in basically everything because they're just such good cards to have in the side deck. Let's move on to the next color. So for our 4th deck, we are going to have Fabled Beast for set 3, and Ginbu did help Fabled Beast out a lot. Let's go ahead and go through it. We know Flying Turtle, when it's summoned, you can look at the top card of the deck. If it's a Fabled Beast, add it. If it's not, discard it. If you don't want to play Flying Turtle with the Wind Summon, you can play Marty Bunny, but Flying Turtle works perfectly fine. Then we have Winterlane Cheshire Cat. This is a set 3 card, mainly being used for its Fabled Beast and being a 2 cost. The Wind Summon doesn't matter as much, but sometimes you can use it and reduce your Exhaust Nexus by a little bit more. We've got the Aravada. That is 3 Cheshire Cat, by the way. We're running 3 Aravada to work with our Cheshire Cat and our Flying Turtle. Then we're running 4 Hippocampo because it is a Blessed Boy and Fabled Beast. We're running 3 Arcanonite Hex to help us draw a card when our Blessed Spirits deal damage. 2 Crocodile because it requires a Soul Core to have Blessed, and its stat line isn't the greatest, but it is a Fabled Beast and it has Blessed, so it's a decent spirit. Then we're running 4 Dual Eagle because this is just such a good card. Then we're going up into 1 God Beast Behemoth to help create an unblockable situation for our opponent. And then 4 10 Millennia Turtle Genbu, such a good card, very strong for the Fabled Beast archetype. At the start of the step, select one of your other Fabled Beast spirits, probably a Blessed Spirit. It can't be blocked by your opponent's spirits with effects listed. Vanilla spirits can still block those spirits, but anything with an effect listed cannot block them. That is something that you need to remember. And then during your attack step at level 2 and 3, when a Fabled Beast spirit is destroyed by your opponent, refresh any of your Fabled Beast spirits. So it creates this big, like, combo chain attack, and one of your spirits is going to be unblockable if their opponent's spirits have effects. Super good. He creates very scary game states for your opponent. So that's why we're running him at 4. Then, of course, we are running 3 Blessed Cathedral because it's such a good Nexus, and 4 Phantasmal Paradise because we are a Fabled Beast deck. Then, of course, for Absolute Ice Shield, we're running 3 Star Blessed Draw to help a little bit more with draw in case we don't see our Phantasmal Paradise early or anything like that. So we are running the 3 Star Blessed Draw. We are running 3 Thorn Prison, of course. We are running 2 Dream Bomb because it's such a good card. And then we are running 3 Exhaust Nexus to help mitigate our opponent's advantage and ruin their field, basically. Then in the side deck, we are running 3 Arcana Joker because if game 1 we had some problems, let's just chuck in 3 more unblockable spirits and call it a day. Then we're running an additional God Beast Behemoth. We're running an additional Blessed Cathedral, some Suppression, Thorn Prison, Dream Bomb, and another Exhaust Nexus just to round things out and fix our ratios. With that out of the way, let's move on to the next color, which is green. And with green, of course, you know it's going to be Gale, baby. So Gale is incredibly powerful, and this is a good starting point for you to work with if you are going to be running a Gale deck. So we're starting with 2 Swamurai. If you have a Spirit with Gale, it does get Swift in your hand, so it's a good way to chump block or a good way to extend against your opponent. Then we're running some Totem Owl. This could also be Mushrantula if you want it to be, but Mushrantula is a bit expensive right now. So we're running the 3 Totem Owl. It has Gale 1. Not a great stat line, but it's still a decent spirit to swing into your opponent, and they have to exhaust something else if they want to block with it. We have, of course, for 4 Worker Ant-Man because he's such a good card. We are playing 3 Hunger Tree. This card is a good spirit to slap on the field and tell your opponent, if you want to attack into me, you are going to discard a card. This in combination with Mushrantula can really hurt your opponent's hand. So if you want to run Mushrantula instead of the Totem Owl, feel free to do that. But if you just want to run the Hunger Tree, then the Hunger Tree is still just a great mitigation for your opponent to stop attacking. Or you can attack with it and say either take a life or lose a spirit or kill this and discard a card. Just really good overall. Lots of pressure applied by Hunger Tree. Then we're running into 3 Loyal Retainer Ezerwolf. This is a Gale Spirit from set 2, and it's just got a decent stat line with Gale 1. Afterwards, we are running 2 of the Forest Guardian Alron. When summoned, you're going to place a core from your Void onto it and each of your Emerald Sanctuaries. It can ramp you quite a bit if you want to, and then its attack and block effect is so good. Exhaust 2 that costs 3 or less, or 1 that costs 6 or less, when it attacks or blocks, can just really mess up your opponent. So she is just such a good card, plus she is a mommy. Look at that art. Afterwards, we're running 4 Toki 5 from the lore set. It's just a good Gale unit, and you can recur it from the trash by paying the soul core if you have fewer cards in your hand than your opponent. Just a good card overall. Now, you have to remember that is Gale 2 at level 2, so if you do summon it with Hurricane Highlands, which you will see later, you need to make sure you summon it at level 2 in order to get the proc on Hurricane Highlands. Then we're running 4 Schattenjäger. This card ends games. He's so powerful. He's got Gale 2, and then he refreshes when any other Gale spirit deals damage to your opponent. And then at level 3, he refreshes when your opponent draws using any effect, except for Volcanic Canyon, because it's not a draw effect, it's a draw modifier. But either way, he's just really good card. Incredibly good card, incredibly good stat line. And then we are running 2 Heavenly Emperor Feng Wong, the Void Lord of Void Lords, the only good Void Lord so far. He's so good. Gale 3, and then he will bounce an opponent's spirit when one of your Void Lord, any Void Lord spirit, reduces your opponent's life. Bounce a spirit to refresh it. There are times where I have been playing with this deck. I get Feng Wong out on like turn 4. I pay 7 cores for it. Get it out on turn 4. With the Hurricane Highlands out, the Hurricane Highlands immediately makes it level 2, and if all their stuff is exhausted and they don't have an Ice Shield set, you just end the game immediately, right there. And then at level 3, it will deal 2 damage, so just such a strong card. Then going into Nexus, we have 3 Emerald Sanctuary. It is reduction, it works with Alron, and then it does increase the BP of your spirits when you exhaust something. Just overall a great combo piece. And then we're running 4 Hurricane Highlands. This card, everybody's mad about this card that is not playing Gale because it's so good. It ramps your Gale spirits equal to their Gale, and then at level 2 during your opponent's attack step, if you kill one of the spirits with one of your Gale units, you exhaust another one of the spirits, and that does combo off with the Emerald Sanctuary. It's just such a good card. It's a must kill for the opponent, and even if you just play it and then play like a Jaeger and get 2 cores from it and they kill it and they kill the Highlands right after, it's still got its value's worth. It's just such a good card. Then, of course, we have 4 Ice Shield. We have 4 Starblast draw because we do need to draw some cards so we can continue on that pressure. We are running 3 Ant Strike back, mainly for when the opponent destroys one of your spirits, you burst Ant Strike back, get 2 of those Ant tokens on the field, and they are reduction for your large stuff, your Feng Wong, and everything like that. And you can also chump block with them or anything like that, or just use them to extend your attacks on your following turn. So it is definitely a good card that we are running 3 of in this deck. Then, of course, 3 Thorn Prison because Thorn Prison's busted, and we are running 2 Dream Bomb because Dream Bomb is busted. Then in the side, we are doing a lot of ratio fixing. We are running a 3rd Swamurai, a 3rd Alron. We're running 2 Toki 7. The Toki 7 here is mainly for the mirror match because it gains 10,000 BP if your opponent controls a Void Lord. So at the very least, it's a 15k or an 18k. So it can say, hey, I can guard you all day, and it's going to make them think twice about attacking with their Void Lord, and then it can exhaust a spirit and it can refresh itself. So it's a good card definitely for the mirror match, and even in other matches it can be really good because it does refresh itself when it attacks. Then we are running the third Feng Wong for ratio fixing. We are running 3 suppression, an additional Thorn Prison, and an additional Dream Bomb. Of course, that defensive core right there. As Gale, very strong deck, so I highly recommend you check this out. And we are going to go into our final deck, which is going to be blue, and this is going to be Mill. It says Mill for set 3, and it's a fun deck. It looks a little weird, but it's a lot of fun, and it can really, really mess up your opponent. So, of course, we're running the Bull Top Dog. We are running 3 of him. He ramps you when Crush effect mills an opponent's spirit. We're running 4 Block Golem. This card tells your opponent no, and it has Crush. Very good card. It can block for days. Then we are running 3 Giant Platoon. It just has a really good stat line, and it's got a good reduction for its Crush effect. We are running 4 Warhammer Gordon, mainly because it does have Crush +1, but also because of his stacks effect, forcing your opponent to pay cores in order to attack with spirits that cost 3 or 4 fewer, so they can't just keep weenie attacking you and throw a whiteboard down. Then we are running 3 Mermaid Princess Lyrica because we are running a lot of Nexus. This card is really good because it allows you to place a Nexus without paying its cost. And then at level 2, you can exhaust your Nexus, 2 of your Nexus during either attack step, and treat them as level 2 as long as she's on the field, so you don't even have to put the cores on those Nexus. Then we're running 3 Cthulhu Shark. This is a whoops, I really need to clear the board kind of spirit. You do have to destroy one of your blue Nexus to summon it, but it destroys everything without a soul core on them, so you can play this, keep something on your field that you want with the soul core on it or itself, and it wipes basically everything except for one of your spirit and one of your opponent's spirits, unless they don't have the soul core on one of their spirits. And then at level 3, you can place a Nexus card in your trash without paying its cost if it destroys one of your opponent's spirits via comparing BP, but you're mainly using it for its board wipe ability. And then finally, we're running 4 Truth God Mandala. He's going to mill the crap out of your opponent. There's really not much more to say. Going into Nexus, we are playing 4 Enchained Arena because it's just really good. It ramps a core when it's destroyed, and it stacks as your opponent. It's just so good. That's why we're running 4. We are running 3 Seabed Lighthouse, forcing your opponent to have the color of the magic card that they are about to play during either attack step, and then its level 2 ability isn't quite as important, but it is useful for your block golem, etc. We are playing 3 Whirlpool straight because you can play it in burst without paying its cost, and it can pump something up really, really powerful during your opponent's attack step, like your block golem or anything like that, to make it be able to guard over basically anything. And then we are running 2 Victory Oath. This does seem weird for blue, but blue needs to be able to draw to see its pieces because it's very piece reliant on everything. So we do have it. It's best played with Lyrica. You play out Lyrica and then play Victory Oath for free. You draw 2, your opponent draws 2, but your opponent draws 2 actually helps you because that's technically 2 fewer cards in their deck, and it puts them closer to deck out when you're milling them out. And its level 2 ability is pretty decent as well. Then, of course, we are playing 4 Strong Draw because we need to be able to Graceful Charity our way into our pieces. We are playing 3 Starblessed Draw to continue helping with that. We're playing 2 Thorn Prison for that defense. We're playing 2 Dream Bomb for that defense. And we are playing 3 Floodstream to help destroy opponents' weenies. And also, its burst effect is pretty good, treating one of your spirits as its highest level. It's just overall a good card, and it forces your opponent to play around it, pretty much. Then in our sideboard, we are running 3 of the Monkey Fantastical Monk Sanzor, stopping your opponent from being able to draw using magic effects. It does stop you too, but it stops your opponent, which is very important because you don't want them to be able to see a lot of their pieces, but mainly we're using it for its level 2 and level 3 ability for your opponents that are very aggressive, trying to go super wide. They can't play a bunch of weenies because of this ability. So that's why we are running 3 of it. Then we are, of course, running an additional Lyrica if we feel like we need it, an additional Starblessed Draw, 3 Suppression, a Thorn Prison, and a Dream Bomb, of course, like I said, having that defensive core. And that is 6 decks that you can all try for Aquatic Invaders. I will have every single one of these deck lists that I showed off in the description for you all to load up for yourselves and build if you do so desire. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and you got some inspiration from these deck builds. They're all a lot of fun, except for the Oops All Bounds. I haven't tried that one yet, but every other one we have tried and tested, and they are all a lot of fun. So let us know what you think by dropping a comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe. It helps out a bunch. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.